The meaning of life for useless class. What will people do if technology makes jobs useless? Yuval Noah Harari conducts research on the worthless class and defines a new meaning for life. Over the next decades, most of the jobs that exist today may disappear. In view of the constant development of artificial intelligence, which is capable of more and more tasks every day, it thereby displaces the human factor from an increasing number of professions. However, at the same time, there will be many new professions related more to creativity and flexibility. And it's not clear whether 40-year-old unemployed taxi drivers and insurance agents will be able to join the new sphere of information technology. Even if we assume that people of aging professions can find themselves in someone like a designer of the virtual world, progress will lead to the fact that a person will again have to reorganize in a new way in the next 10 years. The problem isn't in the number of places, but in creating jobs for people whose work the algorithm does worse than a person. So it's quite possible that by 2050, a new class of people will appear, a useless class. Not just unemployed people, but people who cannot be employed. However, a support system through some scheme of universal basic income could help useless people. In this case, the real problem will be to keep people engaged in any purposeful activity, otherwise they'll go crazy. So, what can you do with a useless class?
And when you look back in history, people constantly compare the threat of automation and job loss in the 21st century to what happened in the 20th century. In the 20th century, you saw automation in agriculture, so lots of unemployed farm workers moved to working in industry. And then when automation reached the industries, they moved to working as cashiers at Walmart. But in those cases, what happened was that people lost low-skilled jobs and transferred to other low-skilled jobs. Moving from being an agricultural worker to working in some car factory in Detroit, you moved from one low-skilled job to another low-skilled job. When you lost your job at the Detroit car factory and got a new job as a cashier at Walmart, again, you moved from a low-skilled job to a low-skilled job. But the next stage, if the next stage means I'm losing my job at 45 as a cashier at Walmart, and now there is an opening as a software engineer at Google designing virtual worlds, this is going to be much more difficult than moving from the car factory to Walmart. And it's very likely that even if there are new jobs, most of the unemployed masses will not be able to make the transition. It's also a big question about young people that nobody really knows what the job market would be like in 20 or 30 years. It's really the first time in history that nobody has any idea what kind of jobs and what kind of skills people will need in 30 years, which means that we have absolutely no idea what to teach children at school. Most of what they learn is going to be irrelevant to the requirements of the job market and of society in 2050.
In Chapter 5, we stress the importance of Black Americans constructing traditional business communities and practicing group economics based upon their competitive advantage of being a nation within a nation. The envisioned retail business communities would be a good first step. However, retail outlets would not be enough, especially if they are constructed as standalone businesses. They lose the unique advantages of being a part of a new developing Black community. We need complementary businesses that can produce interrelated products and services to magnify our competitive advantage in the marketplace. The nature of complementary businesses allows them to be vertically integrated into a traditional framework that can attract, hold, and redistribute large amounts of wealth and technological resources. Black America needs to own and operate industries within its own business communities that are competitive with businesses outside of the community. In our use of them, and in our use of the term industry, we are referring to certain types of classes or collections of businesses and business activities that are needed to that are needed to fully provide and satisfy a consumer demand for a finished product. It is not necessary for Black Americans to own and operate every kind of business, nor is it practical. We are a marginalized people who are coming into the business world 400 years late. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Happy Monday. Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward. If this is your first time here, I appreciate you. For all my longtime viewers and supporters, I really, really, really appreciate your support. We are covering Chapter 6 of Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, the National Plan to Empower Black America. Chapter 6 is industrializing using your new paradigms. Building industries is the first step towards building monopolies. So I showed the video in the beginning about the end of work, because that's what this video is about. Black people really putting ourselves in a better position to not become a part of this useless class. I've showed this video before in the breakdown, but I want to bring that video back because it fit with this chapter and what Dr. Claude Anderson is talking about, especially the integration of technology into human society as much as it is being integrated today. So Black people will lose jobs if we don't do something now to drastically put ourselves in a position to take advantage of and use the technology. Remember, you can think about technology, and I would say in two ways. You can think about technology in the aspect of iRobot, like technology is taking over, or you can think about technology in the aspect of Black Panther, where we utilize technology to advance ourselves, right? That's one of the things that Dr. Anderson is getting at in his book. Not just talking about technology, but industries. We need industries. We don't need money. Yes, we need money, but money is not what we need. We need industries. A group of people who are trying to build themselves, you don't give them money to help them build themselves. You give them industries. And when you give them industries, they can enrich themselves over and over and over, but also creating industries will allow them to build themselves up as a nation. As Dr. Claude Anderson said in the book, we are a nation within a nation, and we need to operate as if we are a nation within a nation. But thank you for being here. Let's dive more in. This is page 155, chapter 6, industrializing using your new paradigms. Now I'm starting on the bottom paragraph at the bottom of the page, behind the industrial power curve. So Black Americans are in the Stone Age in terms of industrial development. Read that again. Black Americans are in the Stone Age in terms of industrial development. Although slavery begot capitalism, which begot industrialization, which begot a continuous flow of technological advances, Blacks were never the owners or direct benefactors of what their labor produced, right? Throughout the industrial revolutions, Black remained captured but loyal customers and mere spectators, chained to the lowest rung of the industrial ladder. The closest they ever came to industrializing occurred between 1865 and 1900. During this brief period, about 3.6% of Black Americans were engaged in some form of manufacturing. Today, other than workers, the number of Blacks in manufacturing has shrunk to approximately 1%, which is not good for building yourself up. Neither white nor Black leaders seem to grasp the importance of industrializing Black America. If Black people do not experience industrialization, a critical development process, there's little chance they will ever be able to compete in cyberspace or the evolving New World Order. Without industries, there's no mechanism for producing Black-owned and controlled technology. Now, let's put this into perspective of what he is saying. This book was published in 2001. We've already read that it was saying by 2015, if Black America don't put ourselves in a competitive position, we will render ourselves to be fourth-class citizens. Now, it is 2023, and we have not put ourselves in a competitive position. We've not industrialized. We've not done anything to improve our lot in life. Now, I'm not saying you may not have done anything, but what I am saying, Black America as a whole, Black America as a mass, we have not come together and gave ourselves as a group of people, as a team, as a race, we haven't come together to give ourselves a competitive advantage. Now, those of you who have given yourself a competitive advantage, the key here now is to be able to connect and work with others to aggregate what you got going on and build vertically. That's what Dr. Anderson is preaching. Aggregation and building vertically, owning and controlling everything and being able to profit from it, and then using that profit to expand. So if Black America does not industrialize now, we run the risk of never being able to do so. So that's my fear now. In 2023, it is September of 2023. And have we put ourselves in a position to not be able to industrialize? I don't think it's totally over, but I do think we put ourselves further behind in the game. I can't tell you what the point looks like when it's truly over. I can't tell you that. But I believe that it is not totally over for us at this point. I believe we are further behind, but we have to do something now. It is imperative for us to work together now, like now, right now. Or the country people say right now, right? We need to work together right now, because if not, we're gonna put ourselves so much further behind in the game, it's gonna be almost impossible for us to make that comeback. And the key is not to catch up to white people. The key is put ourselves in the competitive position for us, put us in the best position for us. Don't try to catch white people. Be better than what we was yesterday. That's what we need to be concentrating on now. So let's get back in it. Page 157, technology in Black America. As the nation moves in this risky direction, it perpetuates the propaganda that what is good for white America is equally good for Black America, which is not necessarily true, which is not true at all. Just because it's good for them don't mean it's good for us, but we keep mimicking things. Technology has not significantly improve the socioeconomic status of Black people anywhere in the world, right? Technology is advancing while Black people are either standing still or regressing. High-tech advocates refuse to acknowledge the extent to which racial benefits intrude into the development and use of technology. They argue that the market forces will cause the right directions to be made, the right decisions to be made, yet market forces are racially biased. They respond to those with the greatest economic and political powers. In the context of globalization and cyberspace, Black America can take some protective steps to insulate itself from some of the risks that this nation is taking. Black America does not have to totally follow the majority society. Black America has options. If it acts like a nation within a nation, it can set its own direction in some matters, a direction that is in its own best interest. Black America can craft its own industrial policy that includes a realistic role for the use of technology. In terms of competitive advantages, Black America would be much better off competing with third or fourth world nations rather than going head to head with major white nations in America. I mean, well, with major white industries in America. And that's what I just got through saying, right? We have to set a course that makes best sense for us instead of trying to compete with the big dog right now. We're trying to howl at the moon, and we don't have our stuff together. That don't make sense. It don't make sense to try to howl at the moon when you don't have your stuff together. If you can't get to the moon, what you howling at the moon for, right? So once again, how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite. Take our time, build ourselves up, but we have to do something. Now, we are in a position now to where we can't really just take our time. We have to Yeah, we got to get to work. We got to make some kind of splash or drastic moves, or some kind of impactful moves for us to really help to push us into a better position economically and competitively. But we need industries. We have to industrialize. I agree with that. I fully agree. I agreed with that before I started reading this book. What hammered it home with me was to me was going through a um, a simulation of a society. I had a chance to do that like a month or two ago. Go through a simulation of a society, and the group that I was a part of was the impoverished group. Actually, right? I was a part of the impoverished group. We didn't know we were impoverished till we start interacting with the other groups, right? But in that simulation, members of the other groups who felt sorry for us because we were literally sitting on the floor. We had nothing. We were sitting on the floor. We didn't know other groups had tables, chairs, snacks, water, amenities, and all those things. We didn't know that. We didn't know that until they came and told us, and then we saw it for ourselves. But they saw our conditions, and then they automatically went to trying to give us provisions. But what we were trying to tell them was, hey, once we figured out what we were doing and what was best for us, the best thing for us, the group almost dissolved. We decided to stay together, and then we need industries. So we started lobbying for industries. The other groups didn't understand why we needed industries. We're trying to explain to them, if you give us industries, we don't have to worry about money, right? Instead of giving us money and instead of giving us snacks and provisions, give us industries. Industries will allow us to build ourselves up. It will allow us to develop skill sets that can be passed down from generation to generation, allow us to build businesses and wealth that can be passed down from generation to generation. So, yeah. So, technology and work. We discussed technology in previous chapters, but it is also a critical consideration in our discussion of industrialization. Over the course of the last 4 decades, millions of people have been permanently eliminated from the workforce by technology. First videos, right? Due to the economic and political weakness, blacks were the first to go during the 1960s. Technology made blacks an obsolete labor force. Every black person displaced by technology represents a transfer of wealth to the owners of the technology. The owners benefit from the wages. They no longer have to pay a black labor force, right? Approximately 34% of the nation's black workforce is either unemployed or underemployed. They have suffered from having little or no wages for centuries. The wages that have gone to enslaved blacks were transferred to white slaveholders. In modern times, wealth is transferred to the business owners. Black people are always displaced, yet dominant society continues to introduce technology because it enriches and empowers them. But even though we participate in the technology, we use the technology, do we benefit from the technology that we indulge in? And the answer is a resounding hell no. Now, unlike any other time in history, computer-driven labor is extracting humans from the work equation. Some displaced workers re-educate themselves and become employed in new careers. Some of us. But like the gentleman used in the example, if you lose your job at Walmart and you're replaced by a machine in Walmart, and a lot of the jobs are in technological fields that you have no skill sets for, your transition gonna be much harder. Not saying you cannot make that 100%, but your transition gonna be a lot harder, a lot harder. But imagine the amount of people who won't be able to make that transition, amount of black people, right? So some displaced workers will re-educate themselves and become employed in new careers. Others find temporary and part-time jobs, but large numbers simply drop out of the workforce, possibly forever. In his book, The End of Work, and I have that book. The End of Work. We're gonna probably end up getting into this book, The End of Work, right? So in this book, The End of Work, the noted economist Jeremy Rifkin writes about the relationship between technology and the economy. He paints a dire picture. According to Rifkin, the United States has entered a new phase in world history one in which fewer and fewer workers will be needed to produce the goods and services used in this country. He says there's a strong likelihood that by the year 2015, and remember, we're in 2023, so we're past this point, only 25% of the people working today will be needed to produce the same amount of goods and services. I'm gonna read that again. There's a strong likelihood that by the year 2015, only 25% of the people working today will be needed to produce the same amount of goods and services. Now, we